Hi, in this video I'm going to be showing you the things I do on Plesk before I do anything else. So before I set up, my service plans and add customers and do whatever I need to do, there's some different things I do to set up my Plesk server so that it works perfectly fine moving forward. So if you're looking for web hosting and you're looking to set up a Plesk server or anything like that, please check out Rootpal. We have managed VPS hosting, we have managed web hosting. Everything is completely managed by our team and we are super cheap. So we have the cheapest managed web hosting prices on the internet. And if you're looking for a test server, you can always fill out this information, get a test server going, or so check it out, deploy a server. It'll be instant delivery, instant setup for your VPS server. Or you can always check out our WordPress hosting or other hosting solutions. We even have a Nextcloud server as well. So let's get back to the video. So the first thing I like to do after setting up my Plesk server and installing it is I like to change the view. So I usually switch it to the service provider view because it's just easier to see and everything. So now we're going to update everything. So I'm going to click update all, and this will update all the different packages. Sometimes it's already updated, but you want to make sure your server's updated. So let's click OK. And while that's updating, I'm going to go ahead and go to tools, and we're going to do some other things as well. So the next thing, we did the update. I'm going to go to session idle time, and I'm going to change this to 300 minutes and click allow IP address changes during a single session. And I'm going to click OK. What that does is it allows other people to log in from different IP addresses or anything like that. And it makes the session login time 300 minutes instead of 30 minutes. It's very useful because you don't want to keep getting logged out of your Plesk server. Also, if you're using a WHMCS or some other tool that logs people in to Plesk automatically, clicking a button, you'll want to have this enabled. You have to have it enabled or there's going to be some issues with that. So now let's go to, we're going to go to the updates. So we're going to click updates right here. And we're going to just give it a second to load. And I am using a managed VPS server on NVMe drives with Rootpal, so it's very fast. Everything loads super quick. So I'm going to add remove components, and we're going to enable some stuff. We're going to enable the resource controller group, C groups. This is very important for dedicating CPU and RAM to specific service accounts. So you could set up, your clients to use a max amount of CPU or RAM on the server. This is included now. They used to be charged, but I think Plesk is including this on their web host edition license. So that's great. We're going to do the Plesk migrator as well. This is so you can migrate to different Plesks, migrate your data over. You can migrate from cPanel right to Plesk. So this is important too. I don't need any different mail services. Roundcube is good. The Plesk Premium Antivirus I'm going to install because I think they have a free features on that as well. Spam Assassin I want. Mailman, I'm not going to need that right now. And then I'm going to do Fission, Passenger Server, Ruby support, Node.js support. And then I'm going to enable that as well. You want all these things because you might have people that want Node.js support and Ruby support. This is good for caching on websites. So that's important as well. I'm going to go here to the PHP versions. I like to have the newest ones installed. Do not do the outdated ones, but if you do need the outdated ones, you might need to install it if you're using specific PHP code that needs You know, if you're using a specific PHP script or PHP code that needs 7.3 or 7.2, then you'll have to use that. But I suggest updating your code instead of relying on the older PHP versions, because they do filter them out after a while. And then I think we're all good. Plesk Firewall, you can get this installed, but I don't like using Plesk Firewall. I like using another solution, so I'm not going to use that. And then if you want PostgreSQL server, you can do that as well. I'm not going to be using it, but if you need that, you can install it there as well. But I think that's it. So we're going to go ahead and click continue. And so that's going to go ahead and start installing everything we need. So now that that's going to be installing, let's head back over to the tools and settings. And the next thing we're going to be doing is going to the mail server settings. So I'm going to edit some stuff on this page because I want my mail server to be locked down and really good and not have any issues. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase this by 5 from 1 to 5, so it can send up to 50 megabits per attachment file. So the messaging size can be 50 megabits. And then I'm going to click this, which is enable SMTP service on port 587 on all IP addresses. You want that enabled. This is not a lot of number of connections for user per IP address. I usually will up that to 25 or 50, you know, just cause. But maximum number of connections for user per IP address. 10 is good, but I'll give it 25. Maybe they're using something, you know, that requires more IP address connections for your clients. Fix incorrect set. We want this enabled too. This will, you know, automatically fix stuff in the headers, so it helps mail go to the inbox instead of the spam folder. And then we're going to turn on limitations on outgoing email messages. So a great feature Plesk added, with this is brand new, is this count a number of recipients instead of messages. So I'm going to enable that, and I'm going to do 100, oops, and then I'm going to do 200. So you want to turn on limitations because let's say you have a client that they get hacked, right? If they get hacked, they're going to start spamming the server with outgoing email addresses, and you're going to get blacklisted. And then you're going to have a bunch of trouble trying to get off the blacklist, and then it takes time to become, you know, a trusted sender again. So this is just going to help keep your server safe. It's not going to let a mailbox send more than 100. It won't let a domain send more than 100. And you can increase these a little bit, but I don't recommend it. Typically, you want to do this: 50, 100, 200, right? So I'm going to leave it at that. There's no reason you should be sending more than 50 messages per mailbox per hour, and definitely not more than 100 per hour per domain. So this is a little bit high, but we're going to leave it right there. And I'm going to leave this at 200 because there could be different domains per subscription. So let's go ahead and head down here. I'm going to change this show reports based on last day. And then we're going to turn on this. And I don't have these right now, so let me go ahead and grab that. Let me pause and go grab those. So I was able to grab them. So you're just going to type this in right here, pause the video. If you need to, put a semicolon or whatever, this asterisk semicolon, put that there, and then just put these in. It'll help with turning on, protecting you from spam and some other stuff. So it doesn't come through. But I think that's it for all the mail features you want enabled. And after that, you're just going to click OK. And it's going to take a second to load because it needs to restart the services, the postfix and other services that for the mail. So it just saved, and then it says the mail server settings were changed. So now we're going to go to server settings. And what we're going to do is when you set up a new Plesk server, it gives you this host name, random generated host name based on your IP address, which you can access right here, and it'll have the SSL automatically. But what we want to do is we want to change the host name for this server. I'm not going to do this in this video, because if you watch my other video for how to install and set up Plesk on your VPS server, it will teach you how to do that. So I recommend, before even watching this video, you go watch the video how to install and set up Plesk on your VPS server. It'll tell you how to change the host name, and then also how to secure your server using Let's Encrypt. So it can have your custom host name with your SSL with Let's Encrypt. So watch that video. I'm not going to do it in this video. I'm only showing you the things after to do. So the next thing I like to do is I like to go to PHP Settings, and now I'm going to open this tab, and this tab. So I opened up all those specific ones. I'm going to go to PHP NI. So now I'm going to find the memory limit, and I'm going to change this right here to 256. And then I'm going to add max input time. I'm going to add it to 160. And then the max execution time, I'm going to change that to 160. So now I changed the memory limit, the max input time, and the max execution time. And now I'm going to go to the upload max file size. I'm going to change that to 256. You can change the max file uploads as well till 50 if you'd like. That's a little bit better than 20. And then we're going to change one more thing, and I think that's the post max size. There you go. And we're going to change that to 256. So we're going to do this on all of these php.ini files, and I'll tell you why. So I'm going to click OK after I've changed those things. When you start loading a lot of customers on your server, they are going to install WordPress and other PHP scripts. You want them to have the memory limit and all these things that I'm configuring increased, because they're going to have problems when they're installing demo content data for their WordPress or their PHP script. And so the default ones are too low. It's not going to install the demo data. They're going to open up tickets anyways, asking you to increase this. And you definitely don't want to give them the permissions to increase this if they're just a basic customer, because they can definitely hurt your server by increasing the max execution time too long. And you just don't want to do that, right? So you want to just make it good enough for them to do it themselves, so they don't have to ask you, because you don't really need more than 256 megabytes, and you don't need an execution time longer than 160 seconds. You don't really need that. And if you do need it, let's say you're using Nextcloud on Plesk, or you're using you're using a PHP script or code that requires it to be longer max execution time, bigger post max size, then you're gonna, they need to let you know, because it's gonna take a lot of resources off the server, and it could bring down your server if they're doing too much on the upload max size and stuff like that. So yeah, change that to 160. And some WordPress demo data will take longer. You'll have to increase this to 250 or 300 or even. But typically you don't need it longer than 160. So we'll increase that. And here's the max input vars. Some will want you to increase the max input vars to 3,000 as well. But we're just going to leave it at 1,000. I don't think it needs to be more than that So I just like doing that so that most of your clients won't have any problems setting up their WordPress and installing demo data. But you can always go in here to, unlimited, and give them permissions to do it themselves. If you create a service plan that they're under, you can go here and allow them to adjust it themselves. I recommend not doing that unless they're a reseller. So you allow the resellers to do that. You go in here and you give them that access because they have customers that might need it. So resellers, yeah. If they're not a reseller, then I don't recommend giving them the PHP ability to edit permissions. So yeah. So let's go back. And the next thing we're going to do is go to the backup manager. So I like to have my backups scheduled. So what I'll do is I'll go to settings, maximum full number of full backups. I want 1. I'm going to turn this to run with low priority because I don't want my backups breaking or taking up too much CPU or disk priority. So we're just going to enable that. I recommend giving it a password and remembering the password, because if you ever have to import the backup to a different Plesk, then you'll want to do this. If you have it this way, it can only be installed on this specific Plesk server, on this specific Plesk server. So I do recommend doing a specified password and remembering that password and writing it down somewhere. So then once we have that, we'll click remember these settings. We'll click apply. Oh. So that's a password I know and remember. So we're going to click apply, click OK. And we're going to go to schedule. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a daily backup, perform a weekly backup, and we're going to do 1 full backup. So every day there's a incremental backup, and we're going to perform full weekly backups, perform a weekly backup. So we're going to have 1 week of backups if we do it this way. And I'm going to exclude the log files. They are not needed. And I'll click apply. And I do recommend creating backups remotely. So click remote storage settings and then FTPS, configuring your backup to be stored off-site as well as on-site if you'd like it on-site, or you can store it off-site completely and just not have it on-site because you don't want it taking too much of your disk space up. Now the next thing I like to do is I like to go and install my favorite extensions, which I think should be a default on the server. Just click business customer and don't specify where you live, where you can. And then the first extension I'm going to install is Google Authenticator, which gives people the ability to lock down their logins with Authy, which gives them more protection, as well as you more protection. And we'll just click open and you're good. So we can enable it for ourselves, and you can do the 2-factor authentication for yourself. So you're more protected or not. And then we're going to go back to extensions. And the next one I like to do is Softaculous. It's one of my favorite script installers for your customers. It's only $12, I think, a year for virtual server and $24 for a dedicated server. I don't recommend getting it through here. Go to their website, Softaculous, and get it through them. It's way cheaper. You just put in the IP address. You buy it here. You put in the IP address, and it's a lot cheaper, I think. So it's $12 here per year, and then you get like you get a bunch of stuff. You can do any script installation and stuff like that. Your customers are going to love it. So yeah, that's what we're going to install. I'm just going to get the free version right now, and then you can always upgrade to the the premium version. So let's do that. So if you try opening it right now, it's going to give you an error. What you got to do is you got to create a domain. Just do a temporary domain. It's weird. The temporary domains I think are broken because it wants me to be on SSL. So I don't think that's gonna happen. Oh, it worked anyways. I don't think it's gonna SSL though. So if I click add domain right here, it's gonna create the hosting, and it's not gonna secure it because I don't have. Well, maybe it will. I don't know. But typically, I've seen it not secure. Yeah, there we go. See, so it's not securing because I'm not on SSL right here. And I need to create that host name. So remember, make sure you watch the setup Plesk server, how to set up your Plesk server video. Get your host name all settled, get it in the SSL'd all ready. But I'm not trying to show you a website or build a website for you. So I'm just gonna go to Softaculous now. And then I'm gonna go to the admin panel, top right here. And you'll see buy premium license. We'll click this, and then we can sign up, purchase a license. And then after you're done purchasing the license and entering your IP address right here, you're just gonna click refresh license, and then it should say premium, and then you're good to go. Your customers will be able to install all the different scripts, and they'll be very happy with you. So yeah, that's how you do that. And now we're going to go back to extensions, and we're going to get the site importer, which, they have it auto installed now on Plesk installations, which is great. This just allows your customers to import a website very easily. We'll go to Immunify AV. We'll click this OK. I personally do not use Immunify AV Plus. At Rootpal, we go to extensions and we always install Immunify 360. This is up to you. You do not have to use Immunify 360. You can use Immunify Plus. You can just pay for it. And I recommend using Immunify 360. Rootpal uses it, or you can use BitNinja, which is great too. So a lot of people go back and forth on which one they like more. I personally like Immunify 360 because their control panels built into Plesk, where BitNinja doesn't have that. You have to go to their control console, which is on their website. But BitNinja, I've heard, is really good. So there's no wrong or right answer. But if you're not going to use Immunify AV 3 or Immunify 360 or BitNinja, you need to make sure IP addressing banning is on. So these right here are very, very important. The IP address banning and the web application firewall. So this one right here, you could turn off. I don't recommend it. If you have a bunch of customers on your server, you might want it off because it's very resource intensive. So if you're having a bunch of customers that are going to be reusing your server, then I do recommend having it off because it will be resource intensive and it will break a lot of different websites that have a lot of plugins. So we've seen it break a lot, but that's fine. You could just turn it off per website, or you can leave it on for more server protection. But it's up to you. I recommend just having it off because it's going to break a lot of different websites. And then if you have Immunify 360, you're fine. It's a little bit more protection. But it's like I said, it's totally up to you. But if it's just your server, no one's sharing it, I recommend having it on and then disabling the rules that break your other plugins, which is another video I'll have to do to show you how to fix the rule thing as well. So But IP address banning is the most important thing on the server. You want this, you have to have this on. This is not this is not like something to discuss. You have to have it on or you're gonna get hacked. This will block any type of attack and then ban that IP address for a certain amount of time. It will stop you from getting hacked. It's very important. It's the best thing ever. So if you want to move your IP address to trusted IPs, you go here and then you can add your trusted IP. You could find your trusted IP by going to what's my IP, grabbing the IP address and then adding it in here. Click OK and then you're good to go. You'll never get banned. You can always access your Plesk login, or the Plesk page. So now we're going to go to monitoring, and Plesk has built a awesome service called 360, which is really great if you have a lot of different servers to use. So if you have a lot of different servers, Plesk 360, awesome. Connect it, try it out for free, whatever. Don't want to use that? That's fine. Use the built-in monitoring. You click right here. It'll show you all the resources and stuff like that. If you only have one server, I don't recommend the 360 monitoring. The only time I recommend the 360 monitoring with Plesk is if you have 3 or more servers. So then you can view everything in one panel. It's pretty cheap, but there's no point if you don't have more than 3 or 5 servers. So use the built-in monitoring. It'll give you an overview of everything, and you can monitor your server, see what's going on, and make decisions on how to fix specific stuff and which processes and services are using the most out of your server. And now the next thing I'm going to go over is the Apache web server, this is a little trick I like to do to make everything run smoother, faster, and better. You're just going to enable piped logs. Piped logs is really great if you have a lot of domains. So if you have more than like 300, 400, 500 domains, piped logs is the best thing. It will stop any problems with your server. If you're running a lot of different domains, you're going to have a lot of issues if you don't have this on and you have over 300 domains on your Plesk server. So just click apply after turning that on, and you should be good to go if you have a lot of domains. So one other thing I want to do is I'm going to create a service plan with you guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a service plan. I'm going to remove this domain, and I'm going to show you what a good service plan looks like for your customers. So I'm just going to remove all of these. And this is what I recommend. You don't have to copy the settings I'm about to do, but this is what I do recommend for your customers. So we're not going to do reseller plans. I'm going to save that for another video. But let's just go off like a basic startup plan. So we're going to just leave everything normal like that. Open up this. And let's say you want them to have 20 gigs of space. We're going to notify them when the server their hosting reaches 95% disk usage. I don't want to limit them on traffic. If you're using Rootpal, you have unlimited traffic on all services. There's not one service that has a limitation on traffic, so why limit your customers with traffic? Let's say you want them to only have 10 websites or 5 websites. We're just going to put 5 domains. Mailboxes. This is up to you. You can limit the mailboxes. The more mailboxes there are, you can just limit them, whatever. So I'm not going to limit them on anything. So I'm just going to select unlimited. Databases. Typically you want to do 2 times this, or you do unlimited databases. So it'll just be their disk space. It'll go off their disk space, and once they hit the disk space usage, then that's when they need to upgrade to the next plan. So you can do unlimited databases, or you can limit them to upsell them to, maybe you don't want them creating, 500 subdomains, and so you limit them on the databases. but they can't create 500 WordPress subdomains, because they could do that because you have your subdomains are unlimited, which, you know, I like to allow, just so they can create stuff. So yeah, this is a safety thing, so they can't create more than 10 WordPress sites. That includes subdomains, because a WordPress site does require a database to install. So I'm going to leave that at 10. Here's where cgroups comes in, which is great. I love this. So we're going to uncheck this unlimited, because we do not want them using the full server CPU usage. So there are 2 CPUs on this virtual server. So that means you can use up to 200%, which is 2 CPUs. So let's say you have a server that has, like, you know, 8 cores. This would be 800%. So I just want to give them 1 core, which is a lot. That is a lot. That can handle up to 100 users per second on your website. That's around about what a 1 core could do. It can handle 100 users on your website at one time, searching through your website. So that's not bad. So we'll give them 1 CPU, and I think there's 4 gigs of RAM on the server. So I'm just going to limit to 2 gigs of RAM, because that will allow them to go to 50% of the server resources and up to 50% of the CPU of this virtual server, right? So, and that's it. And then you can do the disk as well. I'm not going to do the disk because it's on NVMe. There's no really, they will never hit the max disk or disk read or disk write. So we don't need to worry about that. Permissions. I want to allow them access to shell. I'm going to give them all of these permissions. These are not a problem. I don't want them to have anonymous FTP management. That just creates security issues with them. I'm going to remove the backup and restoration of subscription data. So they will have to create if you want them to back up and restore themselves, you can enable all these options. But if you don't want them to back up and restore that for themselves, then you can disable it. I want them to back up and restore, so I'm going to enable that. But just know that if they do a restore, it could take up CPU resources and RAM when they're doing a restore. So it can bring your server down if they're restoring a big site. Domain alias management, I want them to have that. And I want them to have everything except the hosting performance settings management. So this will allow them to change these settings right here, which we configured in the beginning, and I don't want them to change that, because this is where they could start messing with the server, you know, the server resources and stuff like that. So I don't want them to increase this to a gigabit or something crazy, or increase the max children to like 100 and they could just F the server up, right? So this I recommend turning on for resellers, because they will need it. But for just someone on a hosting plan, they do not need it. Hosting parameters, I don't really have anything to change here. PHP settings, we already configured this in the beginning. Web server, I usually enable the Nginx caching for them, so they can enable Nginx caching on their WordPress hosting. And then click mail. And everything else, I think we're good to go. I don't have anything else that we need to enable. WordPress toolkit, you don't need this enabled. This doesn't really need to be enabled, because they can install this stuff themselves, and they all have access to WordPress toolkit anyways, even when you have the startup plan. So you don't need to enable anything on here. And you don't need this, because they can do SSL themselves. So this is just if you want to like have it kind of forced when they do an install or anything like that. But they can do this anyways, so there's no need for that. And then we're good to go. So we'll click OK. And now we have our startup plan. So now when you want to create more plans, you just click here, clone plans, click startup copy 1, and you can type in grow. And then you can start adding 50 gigs and 15 domains and 25 databases. And there you go. You don't have to worry about the other things. So we'll just do business. And then you could do 100 gigs, 30 domains, 30 websites, and then 50 databases or whatever. It's up to you. And that's it. Now I have 3 plans, and I got the business, the grow, and the startup. 20, 50, 100. And yeah. And one last extension I'm going to install that I really like is the disk usage viewer. So this extension, if we install it, it just basically gives the customer or your websites a view of like what's taking up all the specific space on that file manager. I really like it. It helps sees what is taking up, which folders are taking up too much stuff and what you can clean and the largest files on the servers and stuff like that. Very important to use, and it's a good utilization thing. It tells you, the largest files, and it basically helps out and shows you a breakdown of everything. Very important. I love it. So this is something I really like instead of, SSHing into the console and then, running it. This just does it automatically and keeps it updated. And then you can clean up some stuff or do whatever you need to do. So very important. If we go to tools and settings and server information, you can get all this data right here, which it has, the CPU cores, it has the memory usage, current memory usage, and also the file system of how much data you're using as well. So that's good to know where this is at. And another thing before we get our server up and running, we'll want to go to services management, and you'll want to turn on the C groups right here to make sure it's running. And you'll want to turn on the Plesk Premium Antivirus. That should start up. And you just want to make sure all your services are running that you want to be running. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I think I went over everything that typically we do on deployments of Plesk servers, besides the Immunified 360 and some other things that we changed just so that it could hold more domains and hold more data. So let's see, I think that did not start. No, that didn't start. So I'm sure there's something you got to configure, which I don't think we have a subscription to or something like that. So maybe it doesn't have a free. Yeah, so maybe, I think it does need, you got to pay for it to turn it on, which I don't recommend getting this. I don't recommend anything else but BitNinja and Immunified 360. So you can go ahead and just go into my extensions. If you ever want to uninstall extension, it's very easy. Let's say if you want to uninstall something like this one, you just click it and you just click that right there, and then it'll remove the extension. But I think for the premium antivirus, Plesk premium antivirus, we got to go back into the updates and uninstall it. So that's up to you. So that's all I have for you today. If you need support and you need a good provider to help you set up, install, and manage your Plesk server, check out Rootpal. We are a team of dedicated IT individuals, and we will make sure that your server is completely managed. We are very experienced in Plesk. All our technicians are very Plesk friendly, and we also have a partnership with Plesk that gives us access to open up ticket support, contact their engineers directly, and work with them. So we will have you secured and tight with Rootpal, managed VPS hosting or dedicated hosting. So thanks for sticking around and have a good day. Bye.